In my last video, I introduced a custom Rancor Mighty Mug that I made quite some time ago, like 10 years ago or more, and I said I should make a video about the other customs that I've made, and so I thought, well, let's go ahead and do that. Now, this is not a custom, this is just a regular Mighty Mug. This is obviously C-3PO, but just to give you an idea of what sort of an unadulterated Mighty Mug looks like, they've got this general shape. All the arms and the head are articulated, but the legs are not. And basically, they're just decorated in different ways to look like different characters, in the same way that a lot of the vinyl, figures, urban vinyl figures are. They do sometimes change things up, like with this Gamorrean guard. They added some horns to the sculpt and gave him a little axe weapon there, but for the most part they're not that different from the sort of template. So for another example, we have Boba Fett, who looks pretty much standard, except when you turn him around you see he has a jetpack on. That kind of thing. These were a line that Hasbro released in the kind of 2010s, I guess, or actually late 2000s, something along those lines, I guess. And they released a lot of them for Marvel and other properties. They kind of eventually ended up glutting the market with too many of them, I think, and people got a little sick of them in the way that they have not for pop figures for some reason. I don't know why they've managed to maintain success. But in any case, I kind of like these. I'm not a huge fan of the Mighty Mugs, but I liked them in the sense that they were not that expensive. They had a lot of different characters, especially for Star Wars, and you could go and just buy them at, say, your local toy store or Target or someplace like that. So it was kind of like, it was a fun little treat to get myself if I could find them in the store. And when they discontinued them, they ended up clearancing out a lot of them, so I picked up maybe, 10 or so, with the idea that I would make my own custom versions for characters that we never got, including most of the Jabba's Palace characters. This is the only real Jabba's Palace related characters that they made, despite having put out dozens of other characters for Star Wars. So, that's what I did. Now, let's go ahead and get these out of the way, and I'll introduce the first one that I made. At least I think it's the first one. It's all a little hazy at this point. This is, of course, Jabba himself. And unlike the other ones that I'm going to show you today, this I did not design the basic kind of, art design for. That was made by another guy whose name I'll put up on the screen because I don't recall it at the moment, but he had designed something just on, digitally on the computer as a template, but he never actually made it into a figure. So I did go ahead and make one myself. As you can probably tell, this has been modified. I took a standard Mighty Mug and then added the tail with some Sculpey or something along those lines, some kind of modeling clay. And you may also be able to tell that his head is slightly lopsided, and I'd like to be able to tell you that was intentional on my part to kind of replicate Jabba's misshapen head, but actually I just left this in the oven when I was curing the Sculpey a little bit too long, and he kind of melted slightly, but it was sort of a happy accident. And I think it turned out relatively well. So we've got Jabba there, and of course, to go with Jabba, we couldn't not have Bib Fortuna. As I say, I believe all these other ones I designed myself, so I'm actually pretty happy with how this one in particular turned out. He looks like the character and also like a Mighty Mug. He's not that far off from what I think a Mighty Mug Bib Fortuna would have looked like. For Jabba and for him, I used the sort of skirt version of the Mighty Mug as opposed to the ones that have the separate legs, like I showed you with C-3PO. I also, in addition to these guys, made an Ula. So there she is. This one, I mean, I think the design is fine. The execution could use a little work. It looks a little bit too hand done, in my opinion. And that's the problem with a lot of these customs that I've seen of Mighty Mugs, is it's really hard to replicate the very, very precise designs that you have on a lot of these figures. You know, they're very clean lines, things like that. Doing that with a brush and paint is very difficult, and I was only partially successful, I think, with Ula. I added her Leku head tentacles there, and also this stuff on the side for her headpiece. But aside from that, didn't really modify it. Here is the Rancor that I mentioned earlier. He's just pretty much a standard Mighty Mug. I do like his face, though. I think that part, at least, turned out pretty well. And let's see, I have one more. Now, toward the end of the sort of life of the Mighty Mugs, they were trying to revitalize them, I guess, and they released some smaller versions of characters, largely characters that they had already released in the past. But in any case, I took that smaller model and turned it into a Salacious Crumb. So here he is. And you can see he's got a tail and these ears. Funny story. So this was originally a Yoda, mini Yoda Mighty Mug, which was perfect because he had the ears already built in, and he came with a lightsaber, which I was able to basically shove up his behind and use as a tail. So that's the origin story for Salacious Crumb here. So that's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to kind of show those off. It's been a while since I've even thought about Mighty Mugs, and I have in the past come up with some other designs. I had one for the Rancor Keeper that I never actually got to do. I made one, as I recall, for a Tusken Raider. So I was kind of branching out a little bit, but I don't know. As I say, these are difficult to do, and especially difficult to do well. So I probably won't be making any more, at least anytime soon. So what do you think? Have you seen, do you remember the Mighty Mug line, for that, first of all? And have you seen any other interesting customs? I'd be interested to know what you think. That's all for today. Thanks very much for watching. As usual, this video was brought to you with the help of my patrons, including Angelica Brady and these Palace VIPs right here. If you'd like to join for as little as $1 a month, you can click the link in the video description.